Hey friends! So a couple weeks ago I asked, which of these things are you more afraid of or can hold you back from taking the next step? And a couple people responded that not feeling ready is a big barrier for them in taking the next step, so I thought I'd go ahead and address that here. So first of all, what does it mean to take the next step? And sometimes I think what we do is we look at where we're trying to go, right? That end goal, the big picture, the ideal version or what we think maturity looks like, and we think I can't get there. But the problem with that is that that's actually not the next step. The next step is the thing that's right in front of you, and if you set it up correctly, then it really is like a baby taking the next step forward. You're almost falling into it, right? So I would say if you're not feeling prepared, first of all, ask yourself, what is it that you're defining as the next step? What is it that you're saying that you need to do? Because there's probably a few steps before that, and that you can break it down into a much smaller version of whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. The other thing is, are you looking at that next step through the lens of your strengths? So what we can do sometimes is we can think, man, if I have to get there, there's so many things I have to overcome, and I've got to work on all of these things in order to get there. And what we're doing is we're actually putting barriers in front of our path instead of actually looking for the path that we can go on easily and take the next step forward in that direction. So what do I mean by that? Well, if, for example, you've always wanted to write a story, okay, and you're thinking, I can't write a story. Well, the point is not that you're supposed to be sitting down and writing, a whole chapter manuscript, with this great plot line that's going to be a bestseller tomorrow. The point is that you want to break it down to the very small thing. What is the thing that you could do right now? Well, you could practice writing sentences, right? You could just start with writing down a few ideas, or just disciplining yourself to write every day. And then each day can become its own story in a sense. Or maybe you never finish it. Maybe you never get, a beginning, a middle, and an end, or a great plot, but you're just writing every day to start getting the juices flowing, right? The ideas coming. The other thing you could do is you could take a class. There's a lot of writing classes out there. There's free ones. You can go on YouTube. So maybe it's just that you need to start thinking about what it takes to even write a story. Or maybe you're past that. Maybe you're a great writer, and it's just that this next story is looming before you. You just need to do practice steps, right? Take the steps that you know to do and do them right now. And I'd say that my third tip for that is to set a date for yourself. So instead of thinking, okay, this is the thing I got to sit down and do right now, prep yourself. Put it on the calendar for, I'm going to take this next step, on the first of the month, or as soon as I finish XYZ. And then you're giving yourself time to actually think about it and to prepare mentally and emotionally to take that next step forward. You're building anticipation. There's a lot of good studies out there on how delaying the start of something can actually help you, because subconsciously you're giving yourself time to think about it, and you're building up the excitement for that thing. Now, you may be thinking, yeah, what about the dread of it too? And that can be the case, but again, if you're playing this to your strengths, right? So what is the thing that you're good at? Start with that. So the idea is, right, that first step should be something enjoyable, should be something that you actually want to do. So when you're thinking about writing the story, well, why are you writing it? And what's the aspect of it that you enjoy the most? Is it coming up with the characters? Is it coming up with, the cleverly crafted sentences? Start with those things and just start writing down a bunch of clever sentences that you're going to incorporate into your story. Or start building out all of your characters and then let their story come together. So similarly, if it's a homeschool and you know that you want to homeschool your child, but you don't know where to start. Well, just start with the thing that's appealing to you the most. What is it? And maybe it's, learning from other moms, hearing how they've done it. Great, go out there, make that your first step. Maybe it's getting to research different curriculum and look through them all. Maybe it's spending more time with your kid. If that's the case, just do that thing, right? Just say, okay, I'm just gonna, on this date, start with 15 minutes of just exploring different topics with my child. right? And you don't have to have a curriculum. You can just start with what you know. And just by the practice of starting it, just by taking that next step, you're going to find that the next step comes easier and easier and easier. It's really just getting started. So telling yourself that you're not ready is actually putting a barrier in your path instead of trying to take a next step forward. So hopefully that was helpful. I'd love to get more practical examples if you have some and you're like, okay, well, tell me how to take the next step in this area. And I can walk through it and explain to you what it would look like for different people, because that's the beauty of, God's plan for maturity for us, and this idea of a next step is the one that He's putting in front of you. One, so God's already planning this next step for you, has planned it, and so it's there for you to take. And two, it's unique to you. It's unique to your strengths and abilities and things that God's designed you for. So it's not going to look like anybody else's. So that's one fallacy, is that when we think of what we're trying to get to here, we look for someone and we try to follow the path that they took to get there. And most likely that's not going to be the path that God has for you. And you're going to you can look at that as a good guide and example, but you're going to need to realize that the next step for you is going to be unique to you, and that you're going to need to pray and ask God, what is this thing and how do I get started on it? So I hope that was encouraging, and if you have more examples or questions, please put them in the comments, because I would love to dive in and figure out how I can be more helpful in that area.